rider's true core, those deep stabilizing muscles which should be there to support our body against all the forces coming at us from all sides when we're on the horse, and those muscles which should enable us to maintain that just right, springy but stable, soft but consistent, strong but allowing, dynamic posture. So we can turn our shoulders and use our weight aids and be able to separate what happens here from what happens in the hips. And this matters not only because, of course, it's correct and what we want for great riding, but because when we don't have those, our hips take on the stabilizing work that isn't being done through here. And that makes them tight within themselves and tight onto your horse's back. Plus, your back starts to use the muscles which should be longer and softer to create movement and flow, instead to hold you stable, so they get stiff and sore and your movement gets blocked on the horse. So this work is also key to stopping us tipping forward or collapsing sideways, to enable us to half halt and collect our horse up in front of us just from the seat, and enabling us to stay stable and strong and below us. The true core is the full 360 degrees of deep muscles through our torso and key muscles in our hips themselves. They're all part of the core, which is possibly the most misunderstood term in biomechanics. So let's jump in. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. So we're starting out in standing, and I am going to ask you in a moment to identify the lowest possible ab you can find, by which I mean whichever stomach muscle or ab muscle you can identify that's as close as possible to your pubic bone, okay? It'll make sense when we get there. I refer to this as Nicoline abs, which in the courses, which I know has confused the heck out of people who are not Brits and don't use the word knickers for underwear, but that's what we mean. It's right down by the line of your underwear. You might tell me your underwear's up here. You know what I mean. All right, okay, so let's just start out with a couple of nice, simple, plain roll downs where we roll the spine over one vertebra at a time. So take the feet to hip width, stand up nice and tall, drop the shoulders down nice and softly, make sure the fronts of the knees are soft, back of the neck is long. Inhale, taking the air into the back of the rib cage and filling up through the spine in the lower back. And then exhale, just let it out. Let everything deflate. Super. Another one like that, in through the nose. And exhale. Lovely. Okay, we're going to take the inhale. On the exhale, we're going to do the roll down. So inhale to prepare. Exhale to tuck the chin and start your roll from the neck, shoulders, upper back, one vertebra at a time. So my weight is really very much over my toes here as I'm rolling down, visualizing the spine going over one vertebra at a time. Hang out here at the bottom. Bend the knees as much as you need. Not essential to have the hands down to the floor. You just want a nice feeling of gravity coming through the back. And then when you're ready, we're going to inhale. And as we exhale, I want you to find that lowest ab you can and think of activating it and squeezing it towards your spine, and then the ab above it in order to start rolling up, then the ab above that. Just breathe normally here. So you're using each ab in turn to ask the upper body to restack up to vertical, okay? Don't worry if you can't do it all the way up. It's quite often easier to find one and then you're like, actually they're not doing the thing to push the vertebrae back up. It's just a feeling that you're looking for, okay? That's the start of strengthening them in that sequence. So let's do another one. So inhale, back inside of the ribs. Exhale, tuck the chin. And then roll over. Don't let the bum stick out back, okay? So we're having the weight really come forward, almost like you want to fall on your face, so that we're lengthening through the back of the body rather than hinging through the hip. And then we're down here at the bottom, bend the knees as much as you need. Take an inhale, and then we're going to identify that lowest possible ab again, and we're going to use it to begin on the exhale to ripple us back up with the abs sort of activating to push the body back up to upright. Okay, don't worry if you're not getting it. It could take a while for those pathways to really feel like they're doing what they should be doing, but we've got to ask, otherwise they'll never find it, all right? So as long as you're asking, you're starting the work. Okay, so next up, do you remember the little crossed legs that we did in the previous session? We're going to come to that position and we're going to do a little roll down from there. So get yourself to a point where they're comfortable so you're not kind of crunching your knees one against the other. But we want to feel like we're pretty straight on through the hips and we're straight on. So we've got this kind of twist going on through the legs, but the upper body is straight. Okay, when you're ready, take an inhale. Exhale, tuck the chin, and we're going to do a roll down like this. Coming over one vertebra at a time. Just tune into your balance with the feet so that the bum isn't going back. Rolling down. And then we're down here at the bottom. You can bend your knees, you might need to take your feet a little wider, but I would probably just go to where you can go with the legs roughly straight. Might just be easier to organise. And then inhale. And find that bottom ab again and ask it to start the lift back up, to come back up. Head comes up last. Lovely. Swap the feet. Other one in front, other one behind. Hips are square on. Inhale. Exhale, tuck the chin. And rolling over. So we're rolling over from the top first, one vertebra at a time. Lovely. Go into where you can go with the legs roughly straight. And then when you're ready, inhale. Find that bottom ab. And start bringing that ab in towards the spine. And then rolling up. Pushing the spine back one vertebra on top of the other. Lovely. All right. Okay, so I've got a couple of options for this one. So if you don't like to kneel, then you can do a nice common or garden, straightforward hip flexor stretch. So this is one leg in front, other leg behind, and you're going to drop down into it to whatever position is comfortable for you. Have your hand on something for stability until you feel an opening through this side of the hip. Don't ask too much too soon, but just stay calmly there. Think soft thoughts down into it, breathe down into it, ask it to let go. And then as you get a little more space, you can come in and out of it to suit you. Just play with that stretch through there and kind of keeping it mobile, keeping it modest, keeping it moving, keeping it guessing rather than really kind of pulling into it, okay? So, and then we'll swap halfway to the other leg, obviously, or you can swap between as we go. So you do that if you don't want to kneel, but if we're able to kneel, we're going to come to a full sort of hip flexor, lungy, kneely type position. And what we're going to do here, take the legs slightly wider left to right so that you've got that stability. So first of all, we're nice and upright. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a combination of a stretch and a release. So if you're doing your standing one, you just play, with moving in and out of that feeling of stretch in that hip. And then make sure you swap legs at the point at which I swap legs. All right, so if you're coming with me and kneeling, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the bum halfway back towards the heels, so the back will round, okay, so we're halfway there. When we're there, we're going to tuck the tail. So I'm fully rounded now, tail is tucked, pubic bone coming up towards the nose. I'm going to keep that tail tuck as I come back up to upright. And I'm holding here for a second, keep the tail tucked. You'll feel more stretch through here, and then release. Okay, and we go again. So it's a combination of things here. You want to make sure you're using that glute muscle to ask for the tail tuck. So scrunch that buttock to ask for the pelvis to tuck, because activating there will help this to release as well as the lengthening movement that we're doing. All right, so we go again when you're ready. So halfway back towards the bum, towards the heels, tuck the tail. So squidge this glute, keep this glute on really hard. As you come back up, keeping that tail tucked, and you come back up to upright. Hold there, squeezing this glute, feeling the stretch and the lengthening, and release. Okay, and one more. Halfway back towards the heel, squeeze the glute to tuck the tail, so we're rounding the back, then we're coming back up, keeping that tail tucked, keeping that glute squeezing really hard, feeling the lengthening down the front of this thigh and the front of this hip. and release. Okay, so yeah, so it can be, if you've got a bit of knee trouble, might be a bit much on the knees, which is why I've given you the standing option to do instead. Okay, so change legs if you're up there. All right, so we're changing legs in the kneeling position as well. We've got enough width left to right to make sure we feel stable. When you're ready, we're going to take that bum halfway back towards the heel. We're going to squeeze this glute to tuck the tail, and then we're going to come back up with the upper body, keeping that tail tucked. Come back up to upright. I've got this glute on really hard. This one's completely off. This one's really on. Pushing that hip forward and lengthening, tucking the tail, and release. And we go again, halfway back towards the heel. Squeeze the glute to tuck the tail. Come back up to upright. Hold here, squeeze, 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 and release. And last one, bum towards the heel, squeeze the glute, come back up to upright, keeping that glute really well squeezed. Squeeze, 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 and release. Lovely. And you can come out if you're in standing. Okay. All right, let's come to seated. So totally fine, as always, to have a little bit of something under the back of your bum if it helps you when you're sitting on the floor. I didn't used to be able to sit on the floor at all. I was absolutely useless. I'd fall over backwards. All right, so we're taking the legs out. We're not looking for like desperate loads of width, but we're looking for a little bit of width, a little bit of challenge for the body. We're sitting up nice and tall. So again, if you need something under the back of your bum to help sort of tilt the pelvis up, that's absolutely fine. Reach up tall through the crown of the head. Bring the arms out in front. We're going to rotate to face one leg, and then we're going to come forward over that leg. Now take your hands to wherever you can take them. Just stay there for a few seconds, and then we come back up. Grow tall, rotate to the other side, and forward. Hands to wherever they can go. Come back up. Grow tall, rotate to the first side. So we're coming into a little bit of a stretch here, but we're only staying there for a couple of seconds, just because we're here at the start of the session. And we're growing tall in between each one so that we're lengthening through the spine. Grow tall. Nice. And grow tall. And rotate. And over. And when you're ready, you can release, come back up, grow tall, back to the center, and release. Okay, you can take your hands to wherever is comfortable in order to keep you sort of comfortably upright, because what we don't want at this point is any gripping and holding through the front of the hip here. So I want these hips to be relaxed. So in fact, you can even lean against the wall or the couch if you need to, in order to get these hips feeling soft and that the legs can move and rotate. All right, so it's nice and simple. We're just going to rotate the foot. So push the heel away gently. So we're not, again, not looking for any tension. We just want a feeling that the heel is sort of lengthening away rather than pushing. Try not to sort of slouch down into your, but just make sure you're comfortable, because this one's really about the hips. And then what we're going to do is, like they're the hands on a clock, we're going to bring the toes in to the end of the comfortable range and out to the end of our comfortable range. And in and out. So as you move, make sure, look down at your knees, look down at your thighs, make sure that rotation is happening in the hips. It's not the ankles. The feet are in line with the knees, and it's the thigh bones rotating. Super. Full range inwards, your full range outwards. Nice. Might find you start to be able to get a tiny little bit more. Outwards usually comes first. We've got more range outwards. Nice. Keep those hips soft. Make sure those thigh bones are rotating inside the hip. Rotation, so important for our legs when we ride, to have this rotational freedom and control. Game changing. Especially for those of you who ride with longer stirrups, who like to do a bit of flat work, which should be all of us doing a bit of flat work. But especially for our dressage divas, or anyone who rides with quite a straight leg. but it's really important. It's what enables us to be able to influence the horse's shoulder with our thigh rather than feeling like we need to use our lower leg all the time to ask the horse to bend. And to be able to do that without disrupting the seat. So you can give a signal with one leg and completely not disrupt your seat or the other leg. Okay, lovely. Enough chat, Jess. It's nice though, isn't it? All right, okay, so let's come to lying. So we're going to do some work to open up through the hips. Just moving my microphone. So we're going to come to lying on our back. So, however you want to get there is fine. Okay, so bring the knees in, first of all, and then take one leg back out. And just take that leg up towards the ceiling. We're just opening up a little bit through the back of the leg. So I'm not pulling here, I'm just sort of holding the leg in position. So fine for it to be wherever feels like just asking for a little opening for you. It's just going to make your next move easier. We're just asking the hamstrings temporarily to lengthen a little bit so that the hip isn't needing to fight them. Okay, all right, when you're ready, point the toe. We're going to draw a big circle inside the hip. So take the leg round and keep this opposite hip down. So the pelvis isn't moving. All of this, however you are working, whatever size you're working to, the pelvis is undisturbed, other way. So fine for your circles to be, keep going, for your circles to be here or bigger, but go for as big as you can control. Lovely. Okie dokie. Other side. Bring the knee in. Take the leg up towards the ceiling. Hold behind the thigh just to hold it in place to allow it to know we would like it to lengthen. We're not pulling. Hamstrings don't tend to respond too well to being pulled. Much like we always used to say about horses, it takes two to pull. If you pull them, they'll pull back at you. And who can blame them? Okay, all right, when you're ready, point the toe, nice big circle. I haven't given myself enough room. That's it. So you're looking to keep the leg really straight, keep this opposite side of the pelvis down, drawing a circle inside that hip socket with the ball of this thigh bone. And back the other way. And this side of the pelvis is not disturbed. That's how we know that the core is holding it stable while this hip is doing its moving. So whatever size your circles are, that's absolutely grand. Lovely. And release. Cool. Just bring the knees in for a moment and have a little rock just to let the hip flexors, those muscles at the front of the hip, know that it's okay to soften and release. All right. So next up, we're coming to a sort of a tabletop-y type position, which is if you do Pilates or yoga, that's where you're kind of there, but we're not really. We're having the knees ever so slightly closer, and however open or bent you need them to be comfortable for you is fine. Keep the knees together, not pinned together, but just aiming to keep them roughly together. And I want you to only move as large as your abs and your core can keep your back stable. Okay, so we don't want anything moving here. We don't want your back arching. We don't want you rocking and rolling through the torso. We're going for a really quite precise movements here where everything around here can keep everything in place while these do some moving in the hips. So we're just going to draw little circles with these knees working as a pair. So just focus on drawing a circle, but while none of this is moving. So to increase that stability through here, I want you to think you've got a pesky little brother who's going to come and punch you in the tummy. And you need to protect your organs, otherwise it's going to hurt. So you give that kind of slight brace feeling, but also a pushing down into the mat with your low back from the abs. And only take that circle. So if your circle's here, that's grand. It's much better to be doing this precisely. The to be doing it big. Lovely. When you're ready, take that circle the other way and just notice that just takes a bit of coordination to switch directions. Keep a feeling of shortness between this bottom rib and your hip, with that feeling of protecting yourself against the incoming little brother punch, to stabilize you through here. Just keep breathing normally. Just breathe, whether it's normal or not. Just drawing those circles. Lovely. And release. Super. Pop the feet down. Again, you can bring the knees in for a moment. Just give them a little pull side to side if you felt your hip flexors sort of getting to work then, which is natural. They will have been working then. But if they feel a bit fatigued, this kind of movement can be really good for them because it just sort of lets them sort of slacken up. Lovely. All right. Okay. So next up, we're only going to be here for a moment, don't worry, because it is slightly revisiting what we were just doing. And if you're like, oh, I'm tired already with that one, don't worry, this is going to be very brief. So we're going to do a similar vibe, but we're just coming to the side. So we're not drawing a circle. So take the hands wide. We're keeping the shoulders nice and flat down on the mat. And we are allowing the side of the pelvis now to lift. Only go as far as you can control this to come back up to the middle. So moving slowly side to side. Only as far as you can use these muscles through here to control the movement and to reverse the movement and bring the knees back in. Now, if you're super duper strong for where we are at this point, you can absolutely go all the way, as long as you can be honest that you're keeping the shoulders down. It's these side ab muscles that are doing the work to stop you and to bring you back up. Okay, so wherever you are going, that is all good, provided you're being honest about what's doing the work. Okay, just do a couple more each side, wherever you're going, and release. Lovely. Awesome. Okay, so let's come to side lying. So this is the kind of core stability and ability that we need through here to be able to move, but also primarily to be able to resist those forces that come at us when we're moving around on the horse. Okay, so it's all quite deep core stuff, which is what's going to make the difference, but doesn't necessarily feel super abs-y, if that makes sense. It's that deep core musculature that's really got to work with the hips to be able to enable them to stay soft while they do the work of stabilizing you when you're riding. All right. Okay. So nice and simple. We can either have this bottom leg straight. We want these hips stacked as always. You remember from earlier in the week, or you can have that leg bent if you need a bit more stability. Pop a hand in front of you for stability. We're going to reach this leg away long. So it's really reaching out of the hip socket. We're going to bring it forward and then come through. Take it as far out behind you as you can. And go again. So what you're really looking for in this movement, range, is you're looking for a feeling of lengthening that leg out of the hip socket as you reach it away.